Welcome back. Republicans have been trying to break through for almost a full decade now in the 2nd Congressional District. Some believe it's just a matter of finding the right candidate. In this cycle, a man with a unique resume is stepping forward. Jeff Cousins is his name. He's from Littleton, and he's our guest this morning on Close Up. Thanks for connecting, Jeff.
Adam, great to be with you this morning.
So tell us a little bit about your background and why you want to represent New Hampshire's 2nd District in Congress.
Absolutely. So in the decade after 9/11, I worked as a national security professional. And my job was to advise America's warriors on emerging terrorist threats like al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. And I worked with some of the bravest people on the face of the earth. And while I didn't wear the uniform of our country or serve on the front lines and make the same sacrifices that they did, I was able to participate in their work in an up-close and personal way. But I've also been able to start a business from the ground up with my family and grow this up here in the North Country, starting with absolutely nothing, and develop Schilling Beer Company into not only one of the larger employers in the Littleton region, but also one of the best breweries in the world. And I feel that this perspective, this dual perspective, gives me a very unique perspective on the challenges that are facing our state and our country right now. And it's frankly this: there are a lot of elitist career politicians in Washington, D.C. that think they know better than you and me, and they want to tell us how to run our businesses, how to raise our families, and how to live our lives. And frankly, they want to perpetuate an American foreign policy that's based on weakness rather than peace through strength. And I'm running to stand up to this.
So some Republicans believe it's difficult, if not impossible, to win in CD2. And your fellow Republicans in the State House look like they're ready to sell you out, in this district by adding Durham and Portsmouth and these other Seacoast Democratic strongholds to CD2. So what do you think about this redrawn map that's moving forward at the State House? Is it fair to Republicans like you in CD2?
You know, Adam, I'm not a politician. I'm a craft beer guy. I'm a business guy. I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'm going to let the will of the Granite State come to fruition here. I'm going to play the cards in the hand that I'm dealt with this. So the map is going to be what the map is going to be. And all I can do is control every day. And my mission is to go out and earn the trust and the endorsement of the people in this district. And that's what I'm doing every day.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people who've actually come up to me in the last week or two since Governor Chris Sununu took himself out of a potential contention in the Senate race and said, gosh, that Jeff Cousins guy might be a pretty good U.S. Senate candidate. But you've already ruled that out for yourself. So explain why you don't want to try and jump straight up the ladder to a U.S. Senate campaign.
Well, first of all, I'm very honored and flattered that my name would be mentioned in those circles. I know there are a lot of great Republican candidates in the state. But again, Adam, I live here in the 2nd District of New Hampshire, and this 2nd District is really tired of being ignored and belittled and frankly, left out of the picture by the congressional delegation. And so my focus is right here in this district, running for this congressional seat.
Let's talk about some policy. Would you have voted for the infrastructure package that was just signed into law by President Joe Biden?
No, I would not have. And I'll tell you why. It just ignores the on-the-ground realities that everyday Granite Staters are being confronted with. We're looking at going into a holiday season that's, frankly, one of the most expensive in history. We're looking at inflation skyrocketing by, the highest levels in 30 years. We're looking at prices at the pump that are, topping $3.50. And I know this because I have a Silverado that I drive all the time, and it's $75 a tank. That really hurts. And every one of us in the Granite State, we're feeling this. And so I think the timing of this bill is atrocious. And to think that this isn't going to continue to raise inflation, I think it's a pipe dream. So no, I would not have voted for it.
What if it had been proposed by Republicans? So if President Trump had come with this same infrastructure package, you would have been a no on principle.
Well, again, Adam, if we look back at the price of gas during the Trump administration, it's nowhere near what it is today. And we are, we're living in very turbulent economic times right now. And while we're all in favor of clean drinking water, we're all in favor of sound infrastructure. There's no debating that. And yes, I know that President Trump had an infrastructure plan, but it's all in the timing. And the economy was much better during the Trump administration than it is today. So I think it's very poor, and it ignores the ground truth reality that we're seeing.
One of the headlines from this last week was Republican Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona being censured for sharing a kind of spoofed up anime cartoon that depicted him murdering Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Only 2 Republicans voted to censure Representative Gosar, and both of them have basically been excommunicated from the Republican Party for their prior opposition to former President Donald Trump. So where would you have come down on that censure vote?
Well, I have to say that I'm not that familiar with the details of that case, but what I can tell you is this. Right now, we need to be focusing on the things that make the Republican Party great, and that is a focus on American prosperity, on prosperity here in the Granite State. It's a focus on limited government and freedom and a strong national defense. These are all things that we need. These are the things that need to be taking up our airspace right now.
So, for instance, if an employee at Schilling Beer Company had shared a meme of them murdering a coworker with whom they had strong disagreements, they'd be fired, right?
You know, Adam, like I said, look, we as Americans, we need to solve our differences through dialogue. That's where our focus should be. It's not on threats. It's not on violence. It's through dialogue. And so, yeah, I think a meme of anyone disrespecting or killing other people, that's not the playbook that I use in my personal life, nor is it the playbook I use in my politics.
So knowing where you stand on the issues these days, it's always been crucial in any primary, particularly in the Republican Party. So how about this one? Do you believe the 2020 election was stolen in some form from former President Donald Trump via some as of yet undiscovered voter fraud perpetrated by Democrats?
Unfortunately, I believe that President Biden is the president at this time, and I say unfortunately because polling data shows that most Americans agree with me. But I believe that he is currently the president of the United States, yes.
But do you think there was widespread coordinated voter fraud in the 2020 election?
What I do believe is that there were a lot of voting irregularities, and I think there's a great deal of attention that needs to be paid to make sure that every single American citizen vote that is cast is counted appropriately, and it's one vote for one American. And we need to make sure that going forward, our electoral system operates with the integrity that the American people deserve.
Do you see former President Trump as the most important figure in the Republican Party still today?
Certainly, President Trump is an important figure in the Republican Party. But again, those ideals that I outlined earlier, American prosperity, personal freedom, a strong national defense, a commitment to the integrity, the sovereignty of our nation, these are all critically important issues right now that transcend personality in the Republican Party.
Where do you stand on the abortion issue?
I'm pro-life.
And that's been a lifelong position for you? I guess explain the background there. What informs your beliefs?
Yes, I'm a pro-life candidate.
All right. What's the best way to deal with the millions of undocumented immigrants who are living in the United States? Obviously, over the years, there have been some, compromises to create a path toward citizenship. Others believe it should be either self-deport or deport and leave the country and try to come back legally. So what would be the best way to resolve that issue for the millions who are in the country currently?
So I think this is a question of fair play. There have been so many millions of immigrants that have moved into our country that have made it great, and they've all come through a process, a well-documented process informed by the rule of law. And what we need to do is make sure that we're enforcing the laws that are currently on the books right now. We need to make sure that those people are participating fairly, conscientiously, and thoroughly in this process. And along the way, we need to make sure that we're supporting federal law enforcement who are laying it on the line for us every day along our southern border.
All right, Jeff Cousins, Congressman, well, promoted you already, candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District. We thank you for your time today on Close Up.
Thank you, Adam.